Coraline is without a doubt one of the best animated movies ever made. Everything about this movie is so unique, and the style and story of it have a genius that tends to go unrecognized. Even though Coraline has its community and people generally like this film, I still feel that this movie is not as respected as it should be. Let's take a moment to talk about the genius of Coraline. One quick thing just before we get into it, I want to mention that this is the third time I'm uploading this video. This video is a re-upload of a re-upload, but I went through and changed everything to make sure there's no footage that can possibly be copyright claimed, so hopefully, knock on wood, this video is here to stay. I just wanted to clarify that before we get into it, just in case this video gets taken down again. But with that out of the way, let's get into it. Like many other people, the first time I watched Coraline, I was a kid. I wouldn't really say I was scared when I first watched this movie, I was more so fascinated. I actually find this movie more disturbing now as an adult, and I feel like there are plenty of aspects of this movie that tend to go unnoticed during your first watch. The other thing I want to point out is that Coraline is marketed as a kids movie, similar to other animated movies like The Corpse Bride, Monster House, and Paranorman. But Coraline, in my opinion, runs a lot deeper than those films, and labeling this movie as just a kids movie undermines so much of this movie's depth. Coraline tackles so many issues, and it has so many details and nuances that children won't understand. There have been plenty of videos detailing these nuances, and while I won't dive in as deep in this video, there are some great videos over Coraline you should definitely check out. In this video, I'm going to try to highlight how deep this film goes without jumping into each rabbit hole, so to speak. This video is going to be more of a general appreciation of the movie. But back to the point I'm making. We shouldn't dismiss Coraline as just a kids movie that was pretty good and then move on. Coraline is a deep movie that I found myself appreciating a lot more after rewatching this movie as a grown man. There are so many aspects of Coraline's genius that I can talk about, but I'll try to keep this video relatively brief while covering as many bases as I can. The first thing we should start with is the beautiful, simple, but extremely relatable story of Coraline. When we were kids, there were plenty of times that a lot of us would feel angry at our parents, and maybe we would wish that they would give us whatever we wanted. As childish as that sounds, when we were little kids we all thought that at some point. Coraline takes that idea and presents it as a real choice to the protagonist. It also shines a lot for kids who didn't feel that much attention and love from their parents because they were too busy working, or even kids who moved to a new house and were completely alone and had no friends. Whatever kind of childhood you had, Coraline will strike some kind of chord with you. It takes some talent to keep these simple stories, but at the same time make them nuanced, and this nuance is definitely present in Coraline. On the surface, Coraline might seem like a movie that is just about a kid's fantasy to have attention, but deep down Coraline deals with a lot more issues. Coraline tackles the mother-daughter relationship, and it shows both extremes in that relationship while calling into question what a healthy balance is. On one side we have the mother who lets her child be independent, but this lack of affection and healthy connection leads the child to being confused. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the overbearing mother who can't move on from her children and who quite literally needs their constant attention to be alive. This need for constant attention by the other mother is also emblematic for all people who participate in evil. A lot of people who commit heinous crimes do it for the attention and the press that they will receive, and not giving them that attention is sometimes the best way to defeat them. I mean, just look at what New Zealand did with the Christchurch shooter 3.5 years ago. They never released his name because many serial killers crave the attention that the public will give them. There have been plenty of articles published that detail the underlying reason why killers seek that notoriety, but I won't get into them here. The other mother is without a doubt a killer and someone who seeks attention, because a child's love and energy is literally what she feeds off of. She eventually gets bored of her victims and discards them, and then moves on to that next child, just like other real-life serial killers. Obviously, the one caveat to being chosen is that the child has to enter the building to be in the other mother's territory, but the fact that she is a narcissist and a psychopath is very obvious. The last thing I'll mention in regards to abuse is Stockholm Syndrome and how it plays into the film's narrative. Coraline is slowly broken down and manipulated into falling for the other mother. She is shown periods of love, followed by manipulation that slowly builds up to reel Coraline fully in. To take the final step, Coraline is told that she has to give up her eyes to the other mother. The eyes are said to be the window to the soul, and by giving up her eyes, Coraline would lose her own soul. She would lose the ability to see for herself, to dictate her own reality from her own perspective, in other words, her own autonomy. Obviously, Coraline is able to overcome this, but the children who came before her got tricked and gave in. They eventually realized the other mother is evil since they warned Coraline, but these children realized way too late, and this highlights how naive children can be and how they can be easily taken advantage of. And in essence, Stockholm Syndrome is shown in Coraline, because the other mother lures children in and then asks them to give her their sight. This is so they can't see for themselves that the other mother is actually evil, and so she can feed off their soul. It takes a special person to break cycles of abuse, and in this movie, that person is Coraline. Moving on, the next theme I want to talk about is how looks prove to be deceiving in Coraline. We are shown plenty of characters in Coraline who seem intimidating or strange, but they turn out to be great people who help Coraline. And likewise, the things that seem beautiful turn out to have an evil history. Even the black cat that should be a symbol for bad luck turns out to be one of the saving graces for Coraline. I also think this looks can be deceiving theme can be applied towards the audience. Like I mentioned before, when we look at Coraline, we might just see a kid's movie that doesn't have much to offer, but Coraline is so much more than that. Some people might love clay animation like me, but towards the people who might be put off by Coraline's animated aesthetic, this movie has so much more to bring to the table. You just have to get past your preconceived notions and give this movie a fair chance. This message is reiterated throughout the film with some of the things that Coraline sees in the people that she meets. The characters in this movie have so much more to them than just what meets the eye. I'm not going to dabble in each character because, as I said before, I just want to bring to you some areas to pay attention to, and there are plenty of videos, forums, and articles online that go in depth into the characters. This video is just pointing out some general points of interest. So when it comes to Coraline's presentation, don't be fooled into thinking that this is just some kids movie that doesn't hold any deeper messages, because this movie absolutely does. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you probably like this film. But if you have not seen this movie, or if you want to show this to one of your friends who hasn't seen it, just make it clear that this movie is in the realm of other real films. This isn't just some Disney movie that's meant to make children happy. Coraline is a movie that has universal messages that anyone regardless of age or experience can relate to. And past its presentation, Coraline is a film that deserves to be taken seriously. The next aspect I want to draw attention to would be the details in this movie. Coraline is chock full of clever details that keep recurring themes and symbols present throughout the movie. A very common one that I'll mention for this video is the idea of bugs and animals and how they are used in the film. We see bugs all throughout the other mother's world, with the wallpapers having bugs and the other mother herself resembling a spider. This idea of the other mother being a spider runs much deeper into the narrative, as some species of spiders eat their own babies. Spiders also eat their male partners after mating, and this is why male spiders run away from females after impregnating them. This might be why the other mother dresses up as Coraline's mom, to give her a false sense of comfort, and this hints at the fact that she has plans to consume Coraline. She also has sucked the life out of the other father, who is a slave to her, just like with spiders. The other very obvious hint towards the theme of spiders is the button eyes that the other mother wears. These button eyes have 4 holes each, giving the pair 8 holes total. As we all know, most spiders have 8 eyes. Another detail worth noting is the various imagery in the movie that hints at religion. Coraline has religious undertones, and we see details like horn skulls mounted on the wall behind the other mother, which suggests that she could be a demon or even Satan herself. The gate to the other world could be described as a gate to hell, since it leads children to their doom. Coraline's story also ties in a lot with the story of Adam and Eve. Coraline is promised a kingdom that will never fall, and essentially immortality, but these promises are made by the devil. Coraline is also being tempted into sinning by being ungrateful about her life and opting for the false grandeur that the other mother has made for her. Going back to the eyes, Coraline is essentially making a deal with the devil by selling her soul in exchange for amusement. There was a great article written over the idea that the other mother is actually Satan that I'll link to in the description in case you want to check it out. The movie also just has so many small details that you won't notice until you rewatch this film. Just to name a few, the other YB never eats cotton candy because his mouth is sewn shut. The other mother also has 3 decorative plates up in her house that have the silhouettes of children's faces. This is because each of these plates is for one of the other mother's victims. and when we see the ghost children, there are 3 of them, matching the number of plates. There are plenty of other motifs and details that tie back to nature and various themes, but I won't go more in depth here to keep this video relatively concise. But like with the other topics, there have been some great videos done on YouTube that go in detail on these ideas. The last thing I'll talk about in relation to Coraline's genius is the ending of the film. Coraline's ending seems happy for the most part, but the last frame calls into question whether the world Coraline is in is reality. The ending of Coraline is very easy to take in at its surface level. But when we dig deeper, there is a case to be made that Coraline is further entranced in the other mother's world. Ambiguous endings are amazing when done right, but what I love about Coraline is that the ending seems straightforward. It gives you a cheeky glimpse towards the end that calls the viewer to dive deeper, but most won't. But for those of us who decide to look deeper, there is a hidden gem and a lot more of the mystery to uncover. This mystery and ending add to the genius of this film by giving the movie rewatchability and by making the details matter. Like I mentioned for everything else, there are tons of resources and videos you can find online that delve deeper into the ending of Coraline and what it means, and I highly suggest checking those out when you have the time. There is so much more to this movie that I can go on about, but I want to keep this video relatively concise. Coraline is a movie that is absolutely beautiful, and the fact that it is essentially handmade with a claymation makes the movie all the more impressive and breathtaking. Coraline has a lot of issues and ideas that it touches on, while also paying attention to the intricacies within its presentation. This movie is a rare gem, and we are extremely fortunate to have seen this masterpiece of clay animation. There is tons of lore over Coraline that I suggest checking out because it adds that much more to the subtle details of this movie, and the book is well worth reading. I didn't touch on the book or the lore that much because I just wanted to stay focused on the film and its story in this video. But as always, there are some great channels that have taken deep dives into Coraline. Overall, Coraline is a beautiful movie that crosses into the territory where horror becomes art. Coraline is an amazing movie that deserves to be talked about more, and hopefully we can spread the message of just how great this movie is to others. Coraline is a very easy movie to take for granted, but hopefully going forward we can give this movie some more of the attention and appreciation that it rightfully deserves. That's all I have for this video, guys. Please let me know what you think about Coraline in the comments below. What parts of this movie did you like? I know I didn't get around to everything just for the sake of time, but I'm super interested to see what you guys have to say. Also, these videos take some time to make, and I'm a small channel, so all the support you guys provide really does mean a lot. And as always, if you made it this far, thank you, I love you, and I genuinely hope that you have a great rest of your day.